record on this computer. Okay.
Now it's recording.
Okay, we're good.
All right, well, I will call the meeting to order, and we'll try to throw Larry Lonke some kind of electronic lifeline.
He'll figure it out, I'm sure.
Yeah, he probably at least go back to his iPhone like he usually does. First up tonight, we have a presentation by Jasmine Graham of Sustainable Westchester regarding Westchester Power.
Okay.
Welcome back.
Hi, Jasmine.
Hi, thank you
How
for
are
having me.
Thanks for coming back.
You're getting to see a lot of me lately.
If I did it right, you should, yeah, you were able to share your screen. There you go.
Perfect.
Okay.
So, as you may remember, I'm here about the Westchester Power Program, Sustainable Westchester's Community Energy Program. Again, I am Jasmine Graham, and the forever update that we always give you, we've got 27 municipalities, 24 in the green supply, Irvington included, and that makes up about 115,000 residents and small businesses. And today I'm here to give you a quick overview of the results of the bid process and our new rates for the 2021 contract. So as we mentioned before, we're using this reverse auction software. And so suppliers are actually able to bid against each other and the—
Oh, sorry. You know, because it's in the cup holder.
When what you see here is suppliers outbidding each other and driving the price downward. So Constellation again won this bidding process with their 18-month term. And so on the residential standard supply, the rate that we got is 6.749 cents for those 18 months beginning January 1st. And on the green supply, 7.405 cents. So just to remind you, our current rate is 7.96 cents. And so we've actually decreased the rate by over half of a penny. So we're really excited about that. And one other thing to mention is the not to exceed price was 7.65 cents. So they had to bring us a rate that was lower than 7.65. And they actually were able to outbid each other down to 7.405. And then on the commercial side, because of COVID, commercial demand is down significantly and the price is down. So we were able to get even more competitive rates on the commercial side, which is exciting because you may remember in the first round of the contract, the commercial rate was about 2 cents higher than the residential rate. And now our small businesses will actually have a really favorable rate. So that's 6.445 cents on the standard side, and 7.1 cents for the 100% renewable New York State hydropower. And as with before, all residents who are newly eligible in the program or who have been participating thus far will receive a notification letter. Those will be mailed out on the 4th of November, and they will look like this. So it will have the municipal seal in the bottom right. It'll say, please do not discard, official notification. We try to really get people to open them. And then just as before, there's going to be a 30-day opt-out period. So between November 9th and December 9th, you can opt out of the program before ever being enrolled. However, you can still opt out anytime thereafter with no penalty. Those who do not opt out will be enrolled in this new rate beginning January 1st. And as with before, if you have opted out of the program previously, you will not receive a notification letter and you won't have to opt out again. However, you're still eligible to join if you'd like, and you can give our office a call. So as I mentioned before, you can opt out at any time with no penalty. We have a postcard that comes in that notification letter package, so you can sign it and send it back. You can also call us by phone, 914-242-4725, or you can do it online at sustainablewestchester.org/WP. And as always, we really try to increase our outreach and education, especially around this time, make sure that people know about the program so you can follow us. We've got Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. We have a YouTube channel, Sustainable Westchester Media, which has really great informational videos on this program. We've got a program overview, frequently asked questions, and how to read your Con Ed bill. And then, as always, we are happy to do any kind of virtual education session. And if ever, we'll go back to in person when that is allowable. But we can always schedule some kind of Zoom event for residents if there's more questions. But for tonight, that's all I got for you, and happy to answer any questions you may have.
Well, thanks, Jasmine. Anybody have questions? It's nice when it's the second time through, we kind of understand it more.
Right.
Just like Marianne might have one.
Who's opting out that used to be in on the green power default? Is that happening?
If you've previously opted out, you won't again receive the notification letter.
No, I meant at a municipal level. Are there some municipalities that dropped back from green to brown?
No, actually green. So there was 3 municipalities in the standard supply, and now moving forward, there's only going to be 2 because the town of Greenburgh just switched from the standard supply to the green supply. And as we know, Irvington falls within the town of Greenburgh. So officially all the river towns in Greenburgh are all green. So now there's only 2 municipalities that stuck with the standard supply, and that would be Somers and Mount Kisco.
Did you have a question, Marianne, or?
Yeah, I said, yeah, I was just curious, how many people opt out? Do many people opt out?
Not many. I'd say maybe around 3 to 5%. What we find most of the time is that the opt-outs are mainly people who move, and it's either moving out of town or moving within the town. So for the most part, so what we do is on about a quarterly basis, anyone who's newly eligible will receive a notification letter. So anyone who's just moved into the town, on a quarterly basis, they get these letters. And so what we find is the opt-out kind of goes like this. People opt out because they move out, but then people are newly eligible, a new mailing goes out, and then we kind of get brought back to where we were. But I'd say about 3 to 5% of people opt out.
Great.
All right.
No further questions. Well, thank you again for joining us, and
Thank you, Jasmine.
we'll let you know if there's any other questions and if we need to bring you back. But you're always welcome here if you have anything else to talk about. So
Thank you. You all make it easy for me. So great to see you all. And yeah, just let me know if you have any questions. You know how to reach me.
great. Thanks so much for your help.
Thank you.
All right, now on to announcements. A couple. We have a check over $25,000, which was to Tom Bucci Excavating for multiple projects around the village. It came from both the capital and the general fund, and it was a total of $83,737.50. And they range from $900 all the way up to $47,487 for the period. The next announcement is there's a public hearing to consider an appeal of the Architectural Review Board decision for 2 Hancock Place, which is Takashi and Akiko Akamura, which is scheduled for Monday, October 9th, 2020 at 7 p.m. And it will occur at the end of the regular meeting of the Board of Trustees. And Larry, we were discussing this before. We don't believe we need a vote on this because it's just going to happen.
No moratorium or anything like that.
Yeah.
So, unless Marianne thinks differently, but
No.
yeah. And Mayor, it's Monday, October 19th. I think
I'm
you said
sorry.
9th.
Yeah, I think you're right. It's Monday, October 19th, which there is no Monday the 9th, but that's okay. But the Monday the 19th.
Yep.
If I'm already misreading things 2 lines in, we're in trouble tonight. The only other announcement I had was about Halloween. I know we've started to get questions now that we've turned the calendar. We're already on the 5th of October. Larry and I have met with Joe Archino, and I think Larry's spoken to the police chief or the lieutenant. What we're going to try to do is try to keep downtown from getting busy. So we're canceling. We had a million plans. Halloween's actually on a Saturday, so it's going to be Halloween weekend, and we had a whole slate of things this year that we started planning. I had to say like as early as January, maybe even December last year. But obviously, all those events have been canceled. The traditional Halloween parade has been canceled. The distribution of candy at the firehouse has been canceled. The distribution of candy by the rec department to people in downtown has been canceled. So we're trying to discourage people from coming into the downtown area to trick or treat. We're going to try to get people to have what we're calling a traditional Halloween experience, which means, you can stay in small groups in your neighborhood and trick or treat. But we're trying to avoid any types of large crowds. Obviously, we're not going to be arresting costumed toddlers or anything, but we're just going to ask for people to, rely on their common sense and, be very cautious when it comes to, being in groups this Halloween. It's going to be very tempting, especially if we get good weather. If it rains, it probably won't be a big issue, but if we have a 50-degree night, it's going to be hard. But, so far we have good cooperation. I've reached out to the bands, or at least most of the bands. They are going to be having a virtual event on Friday through the village, through the Irvington Theater. But, they're obviously not playing live on Halloween or anything to draw a crowd. So it's unfortunate, but necessary. And we hope that people just cooperate.
We're also doing our own.
Oh, yes.
Maybe Trustee Lonke will cover it in his report, but we're doing a little virtual Halloween event. And some of the details will be announced, but it's that night from 7 to 9 p.m.
Yeah, we have an online DJ and things like that.
Little music and videos and pictures.
Yeah, we're going to be able to send in a picture of your child dressed up, and we'll put it on Facebook Live and say their name and that sort of thing. So we're trying to make it fun, but try to keep it safe as well. Anybody else have announcements? Larry? Lonke?
No, I just said that's news to me. I'm not sure.
The
So
details.
you're not DJing that night? Okay. I'm guessing Joe will put it in your notes for the next meeting. I think they're still actually trying to finalize some things. So
Yep.
maybe Larry and I are, providing scoops tonight. We're not supposed to, but anyway, anybody else have any other announcements? Otherwise, I'll move on to correspondence. Okay. First is from Katarina Medina. This email is feedback to a work session of the Irvington Board of Trustees, which took place on 9/16/2020. Listen with great interest to the housing needs assessment presentation and discussion of process for police reform. I'd like to share my concerns as an ordinary Irvingtonian. Building more multifamily housing will permanently change the character of the village and eliminate green spaces for all of us and that we all love. They already have many affordable condominiums located in the best areas of the village, such as South Buckout Street and others. Additional multifamily housing will make the tax burden unbearable for many, if not most, current residents. Irvington already has the highest in Westchester property taxes, higher than Scarsdale, higher than Rye, higher than Chappaqua, Broxville, et cetera. The reason taxes are so high, there's not many businesses which cover a large portion of the village spending on their tax payments. Municipality of Greenburgh taxes condominium owners and the rental value of the properties, while single-family houses are being taxed on their property values. Number 3 concern, Irvington cannot accommodate additional traffic, nor it has enough parking spaces on Main Street and near the stations. Furthermore, local residents already have the issue of crossing Broadway with its inadequate and inexistent crossings, and most residents being trapped on the east side of Broadway and the only existing pedestrian walkway located on the west side of it. Higher taxation, elimination of green space, lack of parking, and ability to cross Broadway safely will plummet the tax values even further down here in Irvington. In fact, property values have already dropped following the reassessment of property values done by Greenberg. Concerns about police reform. I am sure I speak on behalf of many in our community. We are thankful and grateful for our police department. Irvington police officers are keeping us safe and protecting us despite budget limitations. Their funds are so insufficient that they have to reach the community for donation. That's the only part of this letter that I will respond to directly. Their budgets have actually increased every year for, I think, as long as we've had a village. Their donation requests are actually for their charitable work that they do through the Police Benevolent Association. So she hopes the concerns above will be taken into consideration during the future discussions on these topics. Also, no one's talking about defunding the police at all. So we want the police to be our partners as we look at their, everything that we're going to look at, hiring policies, looking at their policies and procedures. Pretty much, we want them at front center at the table. So we're not looking to defund anyone, and we're not looking to, vilify the police at all, as I think we've made very clear. throughout this whole process. But the next letter is from Barbara Salant. Please consider the following from the CDC about adverse hearing impacts from gasoline blowers, as well as the enclosed material data safety sheet for gasoline below. These data sheets are used in all industries dealing with chemicals and OSHA guidelines. Just imagine what constant exposure these can do to residents and workers, people trying to work from home and students trying to learn. We will all more vulnerable to these hurricane wind force toxins on every level. The other day, coming out of Downingwood in the Downing Court, a woman my age, which is not exactly in the first blush of youth, was outside using a battery-powered blower on her property. I stopped my car, rolled down my window, and thanked her for her awareness. She pulled down her mask and replied she wanted to be part of keeping the world safer, even if it was just her little postage stamp size of it. People are getting the message. Hope you'll come to a great compromise tonight. I'll be listening. Thank you in advance for all your good work. I have lots of other data, including video, which I share with Paul Feiner and Mike Siegel and all the CAC Advisory Committee beginning of the year, which I attended their meeting. Don't want to overburden you now, but happy to forward additional information if helpful at some point in making an informed determination. Many thanks, Barbara Salant, Downingwood Vice Treasurer and Safety Officer. Two guys, landscapers, came to Downingwood for the last several years every Tuesday, so they're already equipped to follow town regulations if that is helpful. Then there was an attachment. Next up is Caesar Manfredi 1, which is about leaf blowers. The proponents of a complete gas leaf blower ban keep talking about eliminating dust from being kicked up. Have someone explain how a battery-powered leaf blower wouldn't kick up dust. It would not be logical to expect a different dust outcome for a battery-powered blower. So the presented dust problem would not be solved. However, if one could explain how the dust problem gets solved with a battery power, then one would admit that the battery-powered blower is not just powerful enough to raise the dust or to get a big job done. Incidentally, clearing snow does not raise dust. The dust argument should not be part of the decision-making. And then Caesar Manfredi Part 2, the repaving of South Buckout went as well as any such project could. There was excellent communication from the very start to arrange for alternate parking during the paving. Getting the proper information out during a critical multiple-day delay in the project kept everyone here at Half Moon South at least well-informed, if not happy. The police coordination was certainly appreciated. Well done by the village, Caesar Manfredi. We should say that that was a very difficult project. As with all projects that seem to have been put off for many years, there were, of course, extra complications. In this case, there was basically, when they tore it up, there was nothing underneath. Larry, is that kind of my understanding? There's sand underneath?
There was a stretch. It wasn't,
Yeah,
I
not the
don't
whole
want you to overstate it, but it was probably 100 to 200 foot stretch of the roadway that had sand underneath, which is obviously not supposed to be there.
But it was, that obviously slowed things down. But I think the contractors did a great job. I think the DPW did a great job. The police did a great job. You and your team did a great job. And Caesar, thank you for acknowledging that. The last one is from Warwick Norton. I'm alarmed at the ill-informed decision the village of Larchmont has just made. Mayor Lorraine Walsh said in a statement, the approved legislation to ban gas-powered leaf blowers is, quote, essential if we're going to make meaningful progress in turning back the environmental damages causing global climate change, end quote. Leaf blowers have a tiny carbon footprint compared to that we use in our gas-powered cars and to heat our homes. If we were serious about tackling climate change, everyone would have solar panels on their roof and their energy conservation would be a priority. However, leaf blowers are a local issue, both in terms of noise and pollution. But to be clear, the real enemy here is not leaf blowers, but any equipment which uses two-stroke engines. They create harmful, potentially carcinogenic emissions because of their incomplete combustion. They're also extremely noisy. As far as I can see, there's no need to use two-stroke garden equipment except for maybe chainsaws. Small jobs can be tackled with battery-powered equipment, and large jobs, like the fall cleanup on the large properties, can be done with more powerful four-stroke equipment, which does not create harmful emissions and should be less noisy than the two-stroke engines. Hope the Village of Irvington will make a more informed decision than Larchmont on this matter. Regards, Warwick Norton. And that's it for correspondence. So we will open it up to public comment if anybody has anything not related to the public hearing, which would again be on gas-powered leaf blowers.
So if you're in the attendance and you raise your hand, we'll be able to allow you to make your comment. Nothing.
Okay. So we will move on to consent agenda. Does anybody have any questions on the consent agenda?
No.
Okay, then I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda. If I can have a second.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
not exactly an enthusiastic vote, but I think we got it passed anyway. So now we'll go to the continuation of the public hearing to consider a local law amending the use of gas-powered leaf blowers. So Larry, we're going to have a little report back from the group that met.
Yeah, I think so. So let me just kind of set it up here, and then I'll let the other two trustees chime in. But we did, as was suggested at the last meeting in, I guess it was in August, the meeting in August, that a smaller group, which included Trustee Lonke and Trustee Silverberg, myself, met with a little bit of a cross section of people in the community on this, that were on various sides of this issue relating to leaf blowers. And we had a very productive conversation. We met with a local landscaper, a trusted environmental person, someone from a condominium or condominium development or multifamily development. And we had some good exchanges of ideas. And I don't know if either of the trustees want to summarize a couple of the points that were made, or if you want me to run through it, but
you're on a roll, go for it. Okay,
fine. There you go. So, so my take on it, and I think we kind of went back and forth on this, is that I failed to mention that we did have a couple of representatives from the police department there as well, more from a standpoint of just from the enforcement side of things, to make sure that they were satisfied that this was something that could be enforced, or that we didn't start talking about ideas that are completely unenforceable. But the quick summary of our discussion was that there probably needs to be a simplification of the existing regulations, that that there still should be a window of time where leaf blowers, gas-powered leaf blowers, are permitted. Maybe a narrower window. We can obviously, you all can talk about it as a board as to what you think is correct. And but then there was a recognition. So those are kind of the short term. Get some changes done now to simplify it, which would allow for better and easier enforcement, which I know is a constant concern. But then there was more of the longer term discussion, which is, we still do believe that we can go in the direction of not allowing the gas powered leaf blowers eventually. What that time horizon is, again, is up for debate, but I think it's probably a couple of years away at least. A lot of it has to do with education and not necessarily regulation. And that there has to be a significant amount of education to get us there. There also has to be advancements in technology to allow us to get there as well, which everyone acknowledges is the direction it's going. That they are becoming more powerful and longer lasting, and a whole variety of good positives, but not quite there yet. That was my summary of it. Is that accurate in terms of what we heard?
Yeah, yes, that's absolutely fair, Larry. And one of the things that was striking about this meeting was that so often this issue is contentious when people get up and speak one at a time or write their letters advocating their position. But this was everybody sitting in a virtual room. And really, it was a conversation. And nobody was advocating that we should continue with, gas leaf blowers, because, we support gas leaf blowers. Everybody was looking at what is fair. How do we change people's expectations? How do we educate people? How do we enforce what we do adopt? And how do we do this in a way that doesn't, in the short run, create more problems than it will solve? So I think it is, yes, let's look at a reasonable sunset. Let's look at narrowing the windows of possible usage. When we go back to take another look at another draft of this law.
Did the use of four-stroke come up at all?
It didn't. And I actually wasn't aware until this letter that there actually are leaf blowers that are four-stroke leaf blowers. I was
reading about, I don't know, I thought we talked about it once briefly, but I remember reading about it as well. And I was actually curious if the landscapers had use them because I would think that they'd probably be more powerful, easier to maintain, and obviously a lot cleaner. So I don't know. I don't know if they were prohibitively expensive or what the story is, but I'm curious about that as well.
I'm going to say, in addition to the meeting that we had with some residents and representatives, both Larry, Janice, and I also reached out individually to a few other people. And I had spoken to an additional landscaper last week, and I think I'm going to reach out to him again to at least get his feedback about 4-stroke leaf blowers.
But clearly, one of the things we have to do is educate the community better. And this is a frustration I think most of us share with issues as they come up. We try to communicate, we put out information, people who are passionate on a particular position will respond, but the vast majority of people just aren't informed about this, and we have to figure out a better way to do this. From the landscaper's point of view, it's like, well, my clients have expectations, and it's not their job to educate the client. They can say we can do it this way or that way, but they have to do the job. So we have to figure out what we're going to prohibit, what we're going to encourage, and how we're going to get people on board with this.
The one question I keep coming back to is, those expectations are they real or are they perceived? So I guess just, speak for myself, and I've told my landscaper, dozen times, I don't need you to, blow my driveway. I don't need you to blow my lawn. And I would say that this summer, now that I've been working from home, I had to go out a few times and say, hey guys, I don't need you to, use electric. I don't need you to use gas. I don't need you to use anything. Just leave it. And then like the next Tuesday, they'd come back and all of a sudden I'd hear the leaf blowers come on. And I'd be like, what are you guys doing? And it's like, I think there is somewhat of a perception that everybody wants to have every blade of grass off their driveway, but I don't know how true that actually is. And I get it.
I would say I relayed your story because you've said it before.
Yeah.
To one of the landscapers I spoke with, and his comment was, he gets phone calls from homeowners not saying you have to use a gas leaf blower, but commenting about the things that were not done or things that were not done as well as they wanted. And he
Sure.
feels pressure, he feels pressure.
And I wonder if that's, 80% of their customers or if that's 20%, and I don't think we know the answer to that either. But I think
But the point is communication between residents and landscapers. So not just education, but communication as well.
Good point, Larry.
And I have some ideas. I'm looking forward to. I guess we're going to bring this up at the next work session because I think we all really need to voice opinions. And I have some ideas. I'm looking forward to the work session.
agreed.
So I have a question about whether something came up in this demo meeting discussion, which sounds very productive, and I appreciate you all taking time to do this, and those of you who are in attendance who participated. Did the discussion of things being different now because of the pandemic, which happens to be a respiratory kind of issue, and whether or not that should factor into how we make our decision on the change or not change in a law?
Well, one of the things that came up in discussing Larchmont's, change of their law was Larchmont strictly limited their spring cleanup to 1 month, simply the month of April 1st to April 30th. That's their entire allowance for the use of gas leaf blowers. And part of their reasoning was, well, we put a ban on gas, on all leaf blowers this past spring because of the pandemic, and we were no worse for the wear. So that was sort of part of their reasoning and their argument for limiting further the spring cleanup season. Now, I brought that up and, got some other responses from other people about that. But I wouldn't say anyone, Caesar's letter talked about dust being blown up by all kinds of leaf blowers. So, whether there's a pandemic or not, I'm not sure battery leaf blowers are going to solve that issue.
Right.
And really, truth be told, Connie, and this is part of it, some of the reason this has become such an issue now, and that we got last count over 80 pieces of mail and correspondence about this, is because people have been working from home. And it is very annoying, and nobody would deny that it's annoying, and more people are now annoyed. So that's not the only reason. Obviously, there are lots of reasons to move from gas to electric, and the technology is getting bigger. That was one of the very encouraging things, is that we are in a period of transition, and we can do this.
Mhm.
We can literally pull the plug. By the end of this year is the issue.
Right. So in terms of the pandemic, there are kind of two different issues that come up. One that you just mentioned, that people are home and working from home and noticing things, partly like Brian has, as well as just, the whole experience of being at home and working, trying to work. But the other part is the medical side. And there have been some things from some communications about how much is this an actual greater danger around people who, if they have extra irritation on this kind of respiratory problem, it would be more complicated with a COVID kind of experience that they, might fall into. So those are the two pieces of that I'm curious about as we go forward. And if we're going to have a work session, that's great. It'll be something to get further information or not, but it's on my mind.
Sure.
Yeah, the only thing that I was going to point out was that the 4-stroke engines have been available for a number of years now. And in fact, they're the only ones that meet the federal and the county level noise and emissions guidelines. But that doesn't mean that people are buying them because they're more expensive.
Interesting.
But if you're working in the county and have a county license, you're supposed to have only 4-stroke hardware at this point.
Really? Huh. That's interesting.
I didn't know that. That didn't come up in any of our conversations.
Anybody else, or should we open it up to the public? Okay, we'll open it up to the public then. If anybody would like to talk about leaf blowers, gas powered or otherwise, raise your hand in the chat and Larry will be happy to promote you to the speaking role. Otherwise, we will keep the public hearing open. Oh, there's a hand. Nikki.
Nikki? You're on. There you
Can
go.
you hear me?
Yes, gotcha, Nikki.
Okay, thanks. A couple of thoughts. When you were talking about what the expectations of the customer are, and the mayor's attempts to communicate that, I suddenly had this thought about, when you go to a hotel, or before the pandemic, you used to go to a hotel and many of them would have a sort of a green card option, so that you could help the hotel chain save water and energy by putting this card on your bed and having your sheets or towels changed less often. I'm wondering if we could come up with some kind of a similar thing for property owners, where they could hang something on their doorknob that says, remember, our expectations are, I don't need I don't want this, or I do want that, or, whatever, so that so that there's not a burden on the landscaping crew to remember who wants
Right.
what.
That's a great idea.
So that's one thing.
Good idea, yeah.
the other thing I wanted to say was, and I don't know enough about the whole 4-stroke thing, but if that seems to be a thread to follow from what Trustee Gilliland says about what the county requires, because that would certainly be some leverage if we can follow that. But regarding the issue of dust and Cesar Manfredi's letter, remember, it's not just dust, first of all. And yes, electric leaf blowers do create some dust, and I have one. But it's also the pollution, the fumes from the 2-stroke engine. And I would argue that actually an electric leaf blower does kicks up less dust overall, because from what I observe about gas-powered leaf blowers, they're just on like all the time. They just, the crew has them strapped to their back, and they just go around and they just keep blowing till it's time to go. When I use my electric leaf blower, because I'm trying to conserve the battery, it has a thumb switch that regulates the speed and the power. And if I put it on high, where it really would kick up a lot of dust, in the first place, it's really noisy, and the battery would last much less long. So I generally, when I'm using it, I'm only using it for a few minutes, and I, usually keep it on the low end. And I used to mow my own lawn and blow my own leaves until about a month ago when I injured my shoulder. And so I had my old landscaper come back, and he mows the lawn, and he knows that I want him to use electric leaf blower. And this past week he forgot it. He said he would come back. And I said, no, you can borrow mine. And he borrowed mine, and he liked it so much he's going to get one like mine because it works better than the one that he had. And it's just, mine's just a big one by Works, but it was like 4 years old from Home Depot. It works great. And so I think that we can't just say, yes, okay, electric leaf blowers kick up dust too, because I believe that there would be a significant practical difference in use. And then, aside from all that and the effects on human respiration, there are all the environmental effects that I won't get into now that that you guys have probably talked about, the effect on, the ecosystem and insects and caterpillars and all the things that depend on not having every last shred of leaf litter, blown out from under your bushes. So that's all from me.
Not to say I really, really like the idea of putting up a sign that says,
Great idea.
please love them and leave them all year round.
Could be in Spanish and in English.
Yours, just a symbol, just maybe a picture of Mark Gilliland. But, I think that's a really great idea, because then there can't be a communication breakdown between me and my landscaper when he shows up in the end of my driveway. There's a sign that says, please don't blow my lawn. I think it's a great idea. It's so simple, and it won't cost that much. It's very clear, and it's also then your neighbors know that, if they see something, they can, tell you, hey, by the way, I saw your sign was blown away by their 4-stroke leaf blower. But I think it's a great idea, Nikki. Thank you for that. It's something we can do very easily.
Yes.
Anybody else from the audience? Otherwise, we will keep the public hearing open. But
There was one letter that I keep thinking I should probably make a comment about, that talked about how leaf blowers were not a very big, even the 2-cycle ones were not a very big problem compared to, traffic and all that. But I think we've heard endlessly the quotes about actually using a 2-stroke gas leaf blower for periods of time, like 15, 20, half hour, creates a significant more larger amount, by orders of magnitude, larger amounts of particulate pollution compared to automobiles. So although you might not have some of the same gases, et cetera, it's the particulate stuff that's really causing the effects on people with asthma or respiratory sensitivity. So to equate, two-stroke lawn leaf blowers as being less of a problem than automobile traffic, I mean, it depends what you're looking at as to what a particular point source. I'd rather have a car running idle actually for 15 minutes, far greater than having a two-stroke leaf blower running for 15 minutes. I mean, the difference in exhaust is significant. Particulate exhaust.
Yeah, and I'm thinking, maybe if we're talking about something like, if you add up all of the pollution from leaf blowers versus all the pollution from cars, like you get into that. But I think we have seen very clear science that for, the two-stroke engine is just so much worse than the four-stroke that it's, as you said, for 15 minutes versus 50, it's like 15 minutes versus like 6 hours or something. But, people don't necessarily use their leaf blower every day. So maybe total pollution might not be as much, but bang for the buck, it's definitely more. Leola?
I was having audio issues earlier today. Can everyone hear me all right?
Loud and clear.
Oh, good. Okay. Well, a few things here. Janice, thank you, and everyone else for getting the community together with representatives all around to try to figure out the best way forward with this. And a couple of the points that I wanted to touch on relating to people's ability to change. So here we had this pandemic and everyone had to adapt, had to separate in order to keep everyone safe. Recycling, it became a law and we adapted and did that. Now we know there's way too much carbon in the atmosphere and too much disturbance and all the other points that have already been made relating to gas leaf blowers. One point we haven't touched on, though, is in terms of they are the emissions that cause the CO2, which it decreases air quality. But I don't know if anybody has seen the Kiss the Ground movie. It's pretty new. It's on Netflix, and it illustrates the point of how very important it is to keep soil nourished. So in other words, leaving leaves to decay, all these sort of things, because and when you blow soil or you damage it, you make it bare. Literally, if you could just picture little molecules of CO2 being released. So it's not just the emissions from the leaf blowers, it's actually the stripping of the soil causes CO2 to be released from the soil when it really needs to be sequestered into the soil. So the other part, and very important part in our work together in our way forward to curb these damaging effects of all this CO2 in the atmosphere is to stop the emissions, reduce them greatly with conservation and stopping practices that are damaging. And the other part of the equation is really to keep put the CO2 back in the soil, because even if we stopped all the emissions, we still have so much CO2 in the atmosphere that it needs to be sequestered into the ground. And so that's one important overall thing, that this is just one way that we would help that with people leaving natural debris to re-nourish the soil rather than blowing it around. And then in terms of long-term health of landscapers, and Connie, your question was so interesting about COVID and kicking things around, which is one issue. But the long-term health effects of people who use the 2-cycle engines at such close range over a long time, I worry about the people who have to use them throughout their career and how much overuse is causing long-term issues for them. So our step towards banning the gas-powered leaf blowers, and perhaps all at some point, I don't know, you'll decide the best way forward for our village, but it will help. It'll help landscaper health and the needing to buy these blowers over and over. There's just a lot of good long-term business effect of it at the health of the workers, as well as the health of everyone, and also caring about the disturbance to everyone. So there's a lot of important points being made, and I really appreciate your thoughtful consideration of them all.
Well, thank you for that. And thanks for coming to our meetings. Anybody else? Okay. So we'll keep the public hearing open, and I guess the next time for public comment will be on the 19th, Larry. I got the date right.
Yes, correct.
But we will be discussing it at our meeting on the 14th, which I believe is the right date.
Yes, it is.
So now moving on to approval of the hiring policy. Which I have to flip to. As we had discussed at a previous meeting, or was it a work session? I don't really remember. It was a regular meeting, so I think we made the new hire for the DPW. We discussed as a board how, while we didn't find fault with how anyone had been hiring, really, it just kind of the natural, way things occur when you go to hire somebody. You typically look for recommendations, and you look for someone you might know, and there might have been a part-timer that's done a good job. Thanks to Larry Larry Schaffler for pointing this out, that, again, because there was really nothing wrong with the way it's been happening, but, to him and to us, to the board of trustees, it just wasn't good enough. Not looking outside of our small circle here in Irvington. I think we've talked about it, kind of ad nauseum for the police department, and how difficult it's been with, some of the hiring restrictions we have by having things be civil service tests and things like that. It's been difficult, but we've said, many of us have said multiple times that we don't care if it's the police department, the library, the DPW, the rec, or Village Hall. We want to have a diverse workforce that at least is representative of our community, if not the broader Westchester, New York communities. So we thought it was important to extend our pool of applicants, even if that means more work for our department heads, because we want to have a more representative group here in Irvington. And what we discussed too is that really starts with hiring the part-time folks that will be working in the parks in the summer, and helping DPW throughout the year, things like that, where it's really the kind of the pathway to getting a full-time job. Rather than just me saying, hey, my son needs a job for the summer, let's have let's work harder and try to extend that applicant pool in short, or in long, I guess. But so what we kind of, Larry Schaffler again, put pen to paper for us, and had some tweaks from the board into a hiring policy that we'll now share with all of the department heads. And that's what we're approving here tonight. But I don't know if anybody else wants to talk about this before I go ahead and read it. But that was my view of the history of it.
Well, I would say this is an important effort on the part of the board, and I think we have been thoughtful about this, and I'm glad we're doing this. At least I support it.
Great. So I will read, and you can always comment at the end. Resolved to adopt the following hiring policy. Consistent with our community's commitment to be a welcoming community, we are equally committed to extending that openness to our government's workforce. While we have always complied and will continue to comply with all applicable federal, state, and local laws related to equal employment opportunities and non-discrimination, we do not believe that compliance is enough. Going forward, we are committed to increasing the diversity of our workforce actively and in a positive way. We are calling upon our department heads to recruit qualified, diverse candidates using wide-ranging and creative techniques for any open positions to be filled in accordance with the civil service law and Westchester County civil service rules. If we truly desire a vibrant and welcoming community, our workforce must become more diverse. We will see to it that this happens. So I will make the motion to approve that hiring policy if I can have a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Well done.
I mean, the
Yes.
trick is going to be trying to figure out how to work within the constraints of the civil service requirements and still keeping things, opening things up.
Absolutely.
Agreed. If it was easy, it would be done that way already, but we'll make it happen.
Right, but this is taking it from wishful thinking, from wouldn't it be nice if we could be more diverse, to a policy with a very firm statement of our intent. And how it gets played out is obviously going to be challenging, but we'll do it.
Wide-ranging and creative, I think, are two of the terms that are in there.
Yep.
That's what it's gonna take.
Absolutely. Next up is approval of the fire company fundraising letter. Larry, I believe this is pretty much the same letter with the birthday party pandemic drive-bys added.
Yeah, there were a few little tweaks that way, but overall it's the same type of outreach.
And they're obviously required to do this every year. So,
Well, you as a board have required them to do it, actually. It's not a legal requirement, but
I
you
think
know,
it's a best practice kind of thing.
exactly. Just to make sure that the message that's going out is clear and, that doesn't show that somehow the community is supporting
Buying hose.
purchase of equipment and things like that. So it's more to it than that.
Resolved to approve the fundraising letter from the Irvington Fire Company, Inc. I'll make the motion if I can have a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Next is resignation of a volunteer firefighter. Resolved to approve the following member resignation from the Irvington Fire Company, Dennis Monterulli Jr. I'll make the motion if I can have a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, Dennis Jr., for your service. We understand when, I think he might have actually moved out of town, but we appreciate all he's done for us so far, or did for us in the past, and hopefully he'll be back. Next is appointment of a fire department officer. Resolved to appoint the following as an officer of the Irvington Fire Department with a term until April 2021. Lieutenant Joseph Trauma. I'll make a motion if I can have a second.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Thanks, Joe, for coming back as an officer. Next up is approval of contract 2020-18 for professional services. Larry, take it away.
Okay. Yeah, this is a pretty straightforward contract, but as part of the capital budget, you approve funds to do some repairs and modifications and upgrades to the HVAC at the senior center, which is desperately needed. And this is a contract with a mechanical engineer to do the design and specifications for that work. And it's an engineer we've worked with before, for mechanical engineer, I should say.
Any questions? Resolved to approve contract 2020-18 with Jen Vengas Consulting Engineers PLLC for furnishing consulting services related to the senior center HVAC project and to authorize the village administrator to execute said contract. I'll make the motion if I can have a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Next up, we have reports of boards, standing committees, and officers. Trustee liaison reports. Mr. Gilliland.
I don't really have anything right now. I think that I've started to see a lot of love 'em and leave 'em signs up around, and that's good. I wanted to mention that there's an author, Doug Talame, who originally wrote a book called Bringing Nature Home. It's all about the importance of the backyard food web, shall we say, in bird health and everything else. And it all starts with the plants, hopefully native, that you've got. Well, I don't recall right now the name of the new book, but he has a new book that's specifically about how to transform your home landscape into a more native friendly, bird friendly kind of environment. And it's a very good book, but my brain is blanking on the title. So it's Doug Tallamy. He's a very respected researcher, entomologist from, I think it's University of Delaware, if I remember correctly.
And he's speaking here in Irvington?
I think he's come, if he hasn't yet, I thought he was speaking through maybe I don't know who, is it through GPTF or is it through the pollinator pathway?
Probably check her. I can
It's,
look.
it's called Nature's Best Hope. Is that the one?
Yes.
Pollinator pathway.
Thank you for quick Google.
I'm a good Googler. That's it. Let's go to Dr. Lonke.
Youth programs have returned to the grounds of the O'Hara Nature Center and their beautiful outdoor classroom. Music with Mark and dance classes with Ms. Lauren are back. These two programs continue every Thursday through October. The high school tennis teams, as a reminder, are using the Memorial Park courts daily from 3:30 to 7 p.m. All 3 tennis courts are available for reservations at other times. Ongoing programs include Lego Snapology. I think there's a degree program in that. Kickball, soccer, youth tennis, baseball, and softball. Senior food and supply delivery program is still going strong. We're delivering to around 70 homes each week, and we're grateful for the volunteers who help us every week. There are working field rental agreements with Greenberg United Soccer, Hardball New York from Elmsford, and the Hastings Little League. All 3 organizations have started their programs with us. Both Memorial and Scenic Hudson Parks are being used. Of note, a player in our adult softball league has tested positive for coronavirus. All needed steps were taken by staff to make sure that we followed the safety guidelines developed for our programs. All necessary safety steps for participants have been taken. We're hopeful that with the addition of the new air purifiers with HEPA filters, that we'll be able to return some indoor programs at the O'Hara Nature Center starting in November. Classes with up to 15 participants and up to 3 staff would be the maximum numbers allowed. The Recreation Department has reached a tentative agreement with Capture Point LLC and their program Community Pass to become our online registration platform. Our goal for being fully engaged is 1/1/21. The department has agreed to work on a new Eagle Scout project that will create a new path and walking bridge leading to the marshlands behind the outdoor class in the Irvington Woods. This is a prime area for looking for birds. Thanks to CJ Riley, Peter Strom, Dave Zweibel, Chet Kerr, and Nikki Coddington for working with the Eagle Scout candidate Ben Talty. We hope to complete this project in the fall. Just a reminder, social distancing is still required in all village parks and masks or face coverings are required. There are stories almost every day of dogs lost and off leash in the Irvington Woods. Please remember this is illegal to allow your dog off leash in the public. With programs and young children returning to the woods and the Nature Center Hope programs, having dogs on leash and under control is more important than ever. That's it.
All set. Ms. Kehoe?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. There are many virtual programs in the theater, and one that's been incredibly well received over the last 5 years is the program that has short films in which you get to vote on which one you like best. So they are doing this virtually. It's October 9th and 10th. And you can go online. There's some minimal amount that you can pay to register, but it's in the past that theater has been packed for people attending the As If, and it's quite renowned. A lot of filmmakers like to send in their things. So I was just looking through the little previews. One is called Frog Legs, is one of the little films. I don't want to miss that one. That's my report. Thank you.
Tastes like chicken, Connie.
Yeah. So the French say.
Miss Silverberg.
Well, the good news about the schools is that I hope everybody saw this in the Enterprise, but the U.S. Department of Education pins blue ribbon on Dow's Lane. Recognized as a 2020 exemplary high-performing national blue ribbon school, the honor recognizes Dow's Lane as one of the nation's top schools for its overall academic performance. That's the good news. Unfortunately, school opened and had to close within a matter of days because one of the Dow's Lane children developed a virus, which meant that they just had to, for the moment, suspend the in-person attendance. And that had an effect on the ability of the fire department to have the annual inspection because Chief Dad was quarantined with his child. So what had gone from a dinner, the usual annual dinner, to just simply a Saturday morning was just, we had to be scrapped this year. So that we are.
I had something else I just remembered as Janice was speaking about the school. If you read the newsletter from the school, you'll also see that a high school history teacher, Eric Weiselberg, got a state level honor as an outstanding teacher of American history. And he is our village historian. So kudos and congratulations to Dr. W.
Yes. Village Administrator's report.
So if you live in the Main Street area, you certainly know that Con Edison's been working. They're working on their gas main replacement. It is the last stretch on Main Street, if that's any consolation. They've made it up to Ferris Street with their replacement, and that's only step one. Step two will then be going into the side streets to replace a portion of the mains on the side streets. So I don't know the timing of that yet, but
But they won't tell us, so it's okay.
yeah, well, and it doesn't matter what they tell us, but they are making progress, and but they'll be with us, I'm sure, for probably the better part of another month.
I hate to be sarcastic, but at this point, I wonder how much the difference is between burying the lines and, I mean, they had to dig up the trenches
Yeah, I know, but it's,
the entire length of Main Street.
yeah,
So,
unfortunately, it would have to be another trench to put the electric lines in. You couldn't put it in the same trench. So
yeah, but it's slightly wider trench, but still the disruption was,
Yeah.
been through the disruption.
yeah, that's for sure. But for a bit of good news, I think I reported to the board earlier today that it appears that the state is agreeing with our request to not have pedestrian signs, the large yellow pedestrian signs on Main Street. The DOT looks like they're signing off on that. So what you see is what you get.
We made our case, right?
Yeah. So it was with the help of our village engineer, Han Engineering, that did a significant amount of research on that, and the case was made, and looks like it was successful. That's it.
Is that the final word, or
Yes.
are they going to come back to us?
No, that would be the fine. Those are the people that had to sign off on it, as far as I
So
know.
just shut up and walk away smiling.
You never call them again.
Exactly. Yeah, and we did meet with our local excavating contractor to make modifications to the curbs that are causing trouble for people on the southeast corners. So we're going to be making some modifications there as well. That's it.
Great. Village Clerk Treasurer's report.
You're muted, Brenda.
She said no report. I'll translate.
Oh, okay.
No report tonight.
I read lips, but I can only read no report.
Good.
Village Attorney's report,
No report.
as I read your lips. Public comment, last chance for tonight. Review of action items, Larry? I didn't have anything.
Came up during the meeting though.
Okay, so I will make a motion to adjourn, if I can have a second.
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 All in favor?
Hi.
Okay, thank you, everyone.
Have a
Thanks,
great
everybody.
week and a half until we're on this again.
Thank you.
Good night, everybody.
Bye-bye.